himself off from Krishna's mercy and from the good association and from all the benefits you get from Krishna automatically served. And you cut yourself off from that for one price. So you can stand out there in the midst of your own misery and say, I'm free! I did it my way. Yeah, really, you messed yourselves up your way. This is so deep-rooted in the heart. Always the strive to do it my way. And when that is given up by proper knowledge, and we actually surrender, and that's manifested through the authority of the spiritual master, where Prabhupada ended up demanding, really pushing his disciples to do something which is from today's point of view often considered impossible. And he said, there is no impossible. From Krishna's point of view, impossible is in a word of a fool's dictionary. So do that. And you was like, well, how can I do that? Prabhupada said, don't you think that Krishna will give you intelligence and the strength to do that? How can you have such a doubt? Yeah, of course, yeah. And they did that. You know, and then experience comes from preaching. Amazing things. Amazing. One man Sankirtan party, that's how this movement started. I always remember my good brother Agnes Chandra Das those days, standing alone in Berlin. I heard the story. You know, on the biggest crossing that we used to always at our Harinam. You know, it's called Kurfürstendamm. It's big in Berlin. It's huge roads, you know, 6 lines, you know, going on. And this biggest crossing with the subway underneath, there he was alone. There was nobody else. And the process was that you were just chanting, and he had the invitation card here in the quarter for your Sunday feast. And when somebody stepped and stared at you, he took the card, gave him the card, and kept on chanting again. There was no time to preach to anybody. That was the preaching, inviting everybody to the Sunday feast. So he did that. And then, you know, out of the subway, usually that's a kind of nice tamasic place, emerged, you know, a guy who just looked at him with a sadistic smile and approached him firmly and started to strangle him. You know, yeah, just grabbed his throat and was going. And the response of the devotee those days, you don't move, you don't do anything, except that he switched the prayers from Hare Krishna mantra to Nishinga prayers. So he was going, Namaste, Shringaya, and the guy was just shut up, you know. In the same moment, from this very same subway, appeared a little German lady with her son. A son who was double as high as she was. You know, one of these guys who have this pants too big and they have them on the guni things like this. And they have a head like a pumpkin. And they just go, you know, this kind of guy. So she was holding him in her hand, obviously taking care of him. And they emerged from that subway. And suddenly this huge guy, you know, with this pumpkin head, ripped himself free from the mother and approached this guy who was just strangling the devotee, grabbed him from behind, lifted him up, and threw him into the traffic, which was just, you know, it's a crossing, you know. The guy was just flying straight between the cars. The cars were just braking and horning, and are you nuts? You know, there was this guy flying with incredible power, because these kind of guys, sometimes they do really have a strength. And immediately, you know, his mother came and said, Hans, you cannot do like that, throwing people around. And the Hans was going, and she took him on her hand and they kept on walking. And the devotee was just watching the whole thing and he was going, you know, oh, Hare Krishna, and just kept on chanting. Everything was arranged. That was probably the only service this pumpkin gentleman did actually in his lifetime. But it was a very valuable service, certainly. You know, so things like this, preachers have stories day and night about this. You know, they can tell you stories how Krishna is really protecting a devotee. So that's how you get your faith. It's with no material reason. There's no material reason why this movement should even exist. There's no explanation to that. You know, when they ask us, how do you manage? Then you always come, yeah, we have a GBC structure. And really? Hey, let's get serious. Look at our Danish structure, come on. It's just always somebody popping from somewhere doing something. Suddenly, inspiration. This movement is purely inspiration. And it will remain like that. course, we try to organize the inspirational thing, because sometimes people are inspirational for who knows what. But still, it's inspired by Lord Chaitanya himself. We don't know really what we are doing. We cannot grasp the meaning and the whole plan. We know, we read about this, but we cannot grasp that, Prabhupada himself revealed the plan, step by step. And he was himself amazed about the plan. Prabhupada had some plan, and that you get to know when you see already the constitution of the League of Devotees. That was the preliminary ISKCON in India, which Prabhupada got very angry because it's just he didn't got the cooperation of the Indians. They didn't simply care. And Prabhupada, knowing them being pious, he was especially upset with them because they should actually know, being so blessed by piety and blessed by in so many regards. So Prabhupada considers them, he called them first-class rascals. That means first class, but still a rascal. Whereby the Westerners are the fifth-class rascals, So, but because they simply don't know even. Indians know, and they consciously try to avoid surrender. That's what makes you to a first-class rascal. So anyway, but when you read and study the constitution of League of Devotees, so whole ISKCON is there already, with all the principles and what is the standard of initiation, and all this is already there. So Prabhupada had that kind of plan, but how is going to happen in the West? Among these crazy hippies and all this, he couldn't estimate the result. He couldn't see it. Sometimes devotees perceive Krishna consciousness as something like a magic. You come around and bing, and then, I see Krishna. No. There is a conscious endeavor. Krishna waits for that conscious endeavor. What do you want? And then there is tapasya, there is study. Again, tapasya, study. You learn why tapasya, and then tapasya being performed. It's tapodivyam. If this balance is not there, you go either in tapasya, then you end up actually completely forgetting what you are doing, or you go just either into the, knowledge, collecting for what, and you don't have that purification of tapasya, you simply get more puffed up. So these extremes Prabhupada balanced. He gave exactly the perfect balanced package. And he constantly maintained that balance. You find it in his letters, how he constantly cools this devotee down with this idea and regulates it into this idea. Or, or how he is like, to Suchanda Das describing how useful Christianity is. He said, we are not against absolute not. We can make first-class Christians. So Prabhupada is, whatever was there on piety and devotion, an idea to actually surrender to God, Prabhupada actually encouraged it in any way he could. Explain about guiding everybody to the same line. So, anyway, I promise today I will not go too long because there is somebody also who intends to go out on Sankirtan still before Sunday feast, and I don't want to absolutely interfere with that. There's some comments to this or some questions there?
It's about not studying Bible or scriptures like that. So where's the line? Sometimes we do study for the sake of knowing and actually...
Prabhupada said it's not necessary.
Not necessary.
No, he dismissed the whole thing. Unless you don't come to a very special field, and they're there in the scientific department, they're Prabhupada. When you preach to scientists, they will very easily find out if you talk about something you know about, or you don't know what you're about talking. They are very empiric, analytical people. So I remember I was one part in Stockholm, a lecture of most of the scientists. Who was this?
Gyanas?
Huh?
Not Gyanas.
No, not Gyanas. It was from America. Somebody came.
Devotee?
Yeah. I don't know.
Madhavan Devotee?
Yeah, could have. Oh. My God, he gave 2 hours lecture. I couldn't understand one word. Nothing. I was just sitting there, what is he talking about? I mean, zero. And at the end, he said, and therefore we should all surrender to Krishna. I was going, oh yeah, now I understand. Yeah. This was the only thing I got from this whole lecture. But in that department, but this is very, very few selected devotees who should have the ability of, extract the needed information and immediately modify it or just, complement it with powerful Krishna consciousness. Well, it's very, very polluting to deal with that. It's more poisonous as you can think. This is worse like Hashisha, LSD. Worse. Because you are dealing constantly with people who don't accept the word absolute. There is no absolute in the scientific world. It could be the theory, So it could be seen this way and that way. And if you actually violate, they are completely fanatical on that point. You cannot be absolute. There's no such a thing. That's where the Mayavada comes in. It's all one and the same. I said something, you said something. You wrote a book, I wrote a book. Huh? You try to prove your theory, I try to prove my theory. They have even a saying in this academic world, you publish or perish. Means you have to publish something. Write some book. The world came from a big black square. And then he published another book. The world came, from a big black hole. And another one goes, no, the hole was not black, it was orange. And then this library is full of that stuff, Endless speculations. And they try to prove it this way and that way. And because it's all derived by imperfect senses. And they say, no, we may have imperfect senses, but we have a perfect instruments. Telescope, microscope. Prabhupada said, how can a perfect instruments come from imperfect senses? What do you mean? You develop these instruments with your imperfect senses, and you claim the instruments being perfect. Come on, how does that work? So what do you see there in that microscope? What do you see in a telescope? How do you know? You know what you can see with lenses? You know what you can do with lenses? Any photographer knows what you can do with lenses. Can completely change. This is also a lens. Now you are blaring. So I say, hey, come on. And I conclude, you all came from fog. Because it's an undefined mess, and now you look to me quite undefined. It's like blurry. And I say, this is the reality. You are all blurry people who came from fog. That's my scientific theory. Another one, he has another glasses, who have a big black points on this because he was working with fire, and fire can burn even holes in a glass. And he goes, you are all people with black dots on you. That's the real truth. We all have black spots here, everywhere. I can see it. It's proven. Because he has these things. Everybody has their own optic. Once you are on that level, there is no end to it. Finished. You can go forever. And they spent, Prabhupada even was very practical, he said, and for this, they spent millions discussing whose glasses and whose optic is better. It's crazy. I just saw a big announcement on the internet, huge announcement. The Swedes developed a method how to intensify the moonlight. They will bombard it with some lasers and illuminate the night more so they can use less electricity. It's money saving. The scientists develop. This is serious stuff. They will somehow agitate the moon so it can be more bright. And in this way, we don't need at night so much electricity. It's anyway dark half a year in Sweden, so it will save lots of money. And they already published a very sophisticated study. Submitted it to the government, and the government says, wow, if we have this machine and we can bombard, the moon, it will be more bright. You know how much money we can save? And the scientists, yes, give us more money for the machine. We will give you the machine, don't worry. In the next 20 years. Just give us more money. And the government goes, that's a good investment, yes. Yes. Because basically politicians are just brainless fools who buy anything Because it's scientific. It's scientific. Scientific means very expensive and very useless. Probably destructive. Because actually when you see the scientific, inventions, especially, first of all, they are all aiming to one thing. They are serving the military. Radio, refrigerator, anything what you use in a domestic use is originally invented for the military purpose. That's the priority. First the military, then the people. And people take the maha from the military. Yes, thank you very much for the, micro oven. My God, how that was invented. It was a guy, again, working for military. And he had two machines, and he was working between, he had a chocolate in his pocket. Whenever he walks through this between these two machines, the chocolate melted. So he suddenly had a big lump of melted chocolate in a pocket. And he said, this is strange. So he changed the pants, put a new chocolate and walked back again and melted again. So he said, there must be some vibration, some waves. And he measured, and he said, hey, there's this machine standing there. There's a machine standing there. And there's some interaction here. So then he measured and then he found out this is something which makes the chocolate hot. Then he put a cup of water and started to get hot. And I was saying, wow. And the first machine produced, it was the size of a refrigerator, the first microwave oven. And it was immediately decided by the government, this is something dangerous. Come on, this is melting things unpredictably somewhere. We don't know what it is. We can't even visualize this race. What is this? So it was kind of forbidden. But then, of course, the industry jumped on and said, hey, if we put it in somebody's kitchen, he can warm up anything in a few seconds. Great. And then they did that. Those first microwaves were like safe, like boxes, huge boxes. But the Americans, of course, whatever makes you to enjoy faster, welcome. What it is that it does later on, that's another thing. Who cares? You live only once, Let's warm it up and eat it all. Whatever works, let's get into it. So this is how things are done. Even today, who knows about mobile phones? And 20 years later, they will all discover that people become, brain damaged from this way and that way. And then by that time, everybody else will do, The psychological damages are already ascertained. That's already there. People become zombies just walking around. Completely addicted to the media. Very powerful. It's really a powerful thing. Suddenly whole cities turn into people who just walk around. Nobody sees anything. Anything. They don't see each other, they don't see the trees, they don't see even what kind of weather it is. They're just completely somewhere else. That's what you did to people with such a little thing. Prabhupada was very keen. When a new watch was given to him, Prabhupada said, what is it? He said, Prabhupada, it's a very expensive digital Omega watch. Look, there's 4 buttons. When you push here like this, it shows the date. When you push like that, it shows, the stopwatch. It shows it's sophisticated. Prabhupada looked at it and he said, but my old watch is only 1 button. You have to even always, in the evening, you have to wind it up. This watch has 4 buttons. My old watch is better. Thank you very much, I will not wear this. I don't think you ever see a Prabhupada picture with a digital watch on it.
Are you sure about that? I think they were invented after Prabhupada's time. But there was a story about that he was given a self-winding watch, you know this?
What was that? I concluded it must have been digital, but it's a fact actually. Digital came after Prabhupada.
Yeah, but they gave Prabhupada a self-winding watch. They wind by people just moving around like that. And they gave that to Prabhupada.
I just know about the buttons, that he said, this is too many buttons on this.
Yeah, but this self-winding watch is actually really far out. They,
But you have to walk a certain amount.
You have to walk, and just move and speak like that. But actually it turned out that it didn't work on Prabhupada. He seemed too calm.
Really?
Yeah. He didn't mind covering.
I just know it was called Omega, that's what Omega came up. And it's like, Prabhupada rejected, because why should you change something which already works? Why should you change this? All this digital fuss, it's just like, why? The analog was working okay. What do you need? What? You can compress data on a minimum chip. Well, data about what? The compressed speculation, compressed garbage. What? That you can have a phone which is a memory of 15, mega gigabytes, and what do you put there? What? Because it's nice when you have a Prabhupada, in lectures like this, that's nice. But still, it's vulnerable. Did you ever saw an iPhone which is not smashed? How can they make such a thing, which is a screen, which you carry around, which is easy, small and light? Of course it will fly around. Because, it's a small thing. And they put a screen on it, like almost quality of glass. I always see these people in these iPhones, it's always smashed to pieces, it's just blank, especially teenagers, because they are passionate, And then there was one guy in Czech. He said, okay, let's go backwards again. We will still use some digital technology, but let's make things more and more simple. When he invented the first simple phone again, it was immediately bought by a Japanese company, of course, because Japanese are very good to make things very small and very complicated. Compressed. They have this brain to make things. So he went in the opposite direction. They said, this is also interesting. And they bought immediately the patent for this. And it's a phones which are actually designed for, for old people. Numbers, and buttons, bong, bong, it lightens up. And you can see it, even without glasses, you can see it from a half a meter distance. Yes, now it's like that. You got one button in the middle, you push, and then the ambulance comes. Something like this. Very good for pensioners. It's very popular. The same guy actually said, okay, my next invention I will not sell to the Japanese, it's a Czech invention. I make a completely normal, standard, old-fashioned phone. You pick up with cable and this and that. But it's also digital components inside. But it looks like a phone you can really dial again, hello, and you have a handle, and it's extremely, he became very rich by that. What is this idea to compressing small and small, like the people don't need glasses or what? There's more and more people getting blind, they need glasses and then they go small, 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 and you cannot see what I'm saying anymore. And the manual, it's a manual, this is a joke. Devotees never read manuals, and karmics actually also don't read manuals. Basically, these gizmos, you just buy something and you find a way how to operate. But when you read the manuals, it's because it's exported all over the world, it's made in Japan or made in China. So it's a Chinese Czech translation, a Chinese Danish translation. And there's one guy who just went into the manual with some linguist, and he just made a forward book, like a Czech manual for some digital gizmo, It's actually, it sounds like a cookbook, It's just the man who translated into Czech and equipped this kind of manual. He had no idea. He just picked words from dictionary. So it sounds sometimes really hilarious,
Probably computer.
Huh?
It was probably a computer that, Google
Yeah, something like that. And computers have no brain. They're just repeating gizmos. You punch a little one dot more, the computer goes, what is this? It cannot say, okay, it's the same thing, it's just a little dot behind. No, don't change. And the whole thing is finished. How can people trust this? So it will come back again to people who... There's still a living one American writer, wrote many books. Still using typewriter out of protest. It's from my generation. He goes ding 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 and ding ding ding, and they tell him, come on, please. It's such a headache to scan these copies from these manuscripts and everything. He said, no, I keep always blue, there's a paper, copy paper you put between two sheets and then you have a copy of the whole thing while you are typing. And he said, the day will still come in my lifetime. I will laugh at all of you. When you sit there with no electricity and you stare at these empty screens, I will go ding, 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 ding. I will keep on going. I remember I used to have such a typewriter. I knew even a friend who was writing those days, it was very common. It fell down from his window. He kept it in a window and it fell down, 20 meters. He picked it up on the street and kept on writing again. It was such a machine, That doesn't happen to a computer. So things like that. People get away from this and it goes again to the basic logic. So it works. What do you need? You don't need 60 gigabytes to store more nonsense. For what? But people get so puffed up by 60 gigabytes. I know how the weather will be in 5 minutes. Yeah, it's great information, but you're going to change it anyway. Knowing or not knowing, it's going to rain on your head or be sunshine. It's not up to your control. So there's so much unnecessary information, unnecessary entanglement, instead of simplifying. That's the beauty of Prabhupada. Therefore Prabhupada will be always ever up to date, always fresh, because he always relates to that what is really needed. He took even all the Vedic scriptures and gave us what is needed to be known. And devotees go, yeah, it's okay, but it's so repetitive. A very proper surrender to Krishna, yes, again, and again surrender to Krishna. I want something far out. I want to know the shoe size of Indra or something like this, or what kind of saris they wear on the heavenly planets or something. And actually Vedas give information. And then they get into that. What is this to do with me? I'm still trying barely to follow 40 Glory principles, so hey, let's stay cool, So Prabhupada gave us what we need, and why not just keep it this way, simple. And more study in a depth, not in a volume, but in a depth. Prabhupada gives one better, he gives a really far-out summary of sadhana. Obviously a devotee writing him, Prabhupada, I'm working. I cannot even take shower in the morning. I can barely change my rounds. And Prabhupada is obviously, that devotee is doing very valuable service with his job. So Prabhupada writes back, regarding your shower, that's how you do it. Very practical. You wash your hands, you wash your face, and put a new fresh cloth. This is in extreme circumstances considered also a shower. What a practical instruction. Regarding your 16 rounds, very preferably you try to change them in that day. If you cannot, you finish next day. But try. It should be possible, that they teach in 16. Regarding your studies, better you read 1 or 2 shlokas from Bhagavad Gita consciously and think how to apply them in your life as to study volumes of books. It's very practical. You get a letter like this, you go, oh, now I can go to work again, Prabhupada always considered, what was needed and the circumstances, what the devotee struggles through. You cannot preach to a grihastha like to a sannyasi, and you cannot preach to a sannyasi like to a grihastha. So it's like, but the principles remain intact. It's there. I specifically like that you read consciously and you think how to apply it in your life. How can I get benefit from this? Like today we heard. Not sentimental prayers. Conscious prayers, loaded with knowledge, based, we can only repeat.